A long time I have lived with you, and now we must be going separately to be together. Perhaps I shall be the wind to blur your smooth waters, so you do not see your face too much. Perhaps now I shall be the star to guide your uncertain wings, so that you will have direction in the night. Or perhaps now I shall be the fire to separate your thoughts, so that you do not give up. Or perhaps now I shall be the rain to open up the earth, so that your seeds may fall. Or perhaps now I shall be the snow to let your blossoms sleep, so you may bloom again in spring. Or perhaps now I shall be the stream to play a song upon the rock, so that you do not feel alone. Well, good morning and welcome to you all. My name is Ken Wood. It is my honor and privilege to officiate at this service this morning, celebrating the long, faithful, and beautiful life of Gladys Bebbington. And on behalf of the family, I want to thank you all for caring enough to be here today. It's an important day for people to be together. A day for us to look backward as we think forward. And on days like this, we need each other's friendly faces. As we try to touch in the most ancient of all languages, while we convey feelings which go beyond mere words. We're gathered here this morning as people before us have done for thousands of years at a sacred place. But it's your intention here this morning that turns this into a sacred place. And today your intention should be inspired by the love and caring that Gladys made real in your world. In our lives, there are big days and there are little days. And this is a big day. It's a day for us to share some of Gladys' story as much as we can. It's the day for us to speak about her stepping into this final phase of her human journey. This is the day now when she folds into your memory. The day when the wind comes to blow away her human footprints. The day when Gladys takes her place fully in the stars above and in your hearts below. And it's good that we are here. Now, even with the bright Vancouver sun shining outside, we're going to create some more light in the chapel this morning. We're going to do that to pay tribute to her and also to better illuminate our path here together. So to start us off, I'm going to invite John now to come forward to light what's called the mother candle. And that is to represent the people who can't be with us here today, and we invite them to join us in spirit by this little act. And thereafter, after that candle is burning, we're going to have a mass tea lighting. We're going to have an abundance of people, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, come forward to light candles in Gladys' honor. So I'll now ask John to start us off.
I light this candle for all of Mother's family couldn't be with us, especially some family overseas in our hometown of Silver Trent. So for Karen and David Beach and their family, Tony and Ann and their family, and for a friend, dear friend of Mother Nessa and Roger and her family who are in Ireland, I light this candle. And all the grandchildren and great-grandchildren who couldn't be here, I light for them as well.
Thank you, John. So now's the time for grandchildren who are present and great-grandchildren who are present to please come forward to light some candles. Well, we're here this morning because one of your own has died. Days like this might be called distinguishable because they take us out of the ordinary. Other distinguishable days are perhaps when children are born or people marry, or as in Gladys' case, people die. But we're here to pay tribute to her and certainly to the long and faithful path that she walked. And this is an experience for ourselves this morning. We're here to listen and to feel. Leonard Cohen said, "If it be your will that my voice be still, from this broken hill I will speak no more, but abide until I am spoken for." And that's what we will do today. We will speak for Gladys. We will be her voice. And being in community this morning has a very singular purpose. We're here to try and help each other better understand, maybe just a little bit, this astonishing dance of life and death. We know the two share a twisted vine. They're a twisted vine sharing the same root. Life needs death as death needs life. The two are intertwined. And today we need to sort of help each other navigate through that and maybe come to try and better understand death, maybe just a little bit this morning. What I encourage you to try to do today is to try and see death as a small agent of change, something from which we can learn, a type of ultimate lesson. And this morning, that profound lesson would be this: that with the exception of our human love for each other, nothing is permanent. So we must love what we have when we have it. That's living fully, living with meaning, and living with purpose. And when we make our passage, love is the only thing we take with us. It's one of the few things that has the power to change us and bring more meaning to our lives. And meaning is why you're here this morning. No one should leave this service feeling exactly the same as when they arrived. We might describe death as the change which comes between tides, between where we are in our lives and where the universe is. But we know it's a destination we all share, that for us all there will be a time of twilight and shadow. Now, Gladys was born over 98 years ago, and of course will pass only days ago. We can only wonder at the things she must have seen in her life. She would certainly have experienced horse-drawn carts and carriages running through rocky streets, and in the same lifespan lifted her eyes up to watch a man walk on the moon. An enormous amount of things have occurred during her time with us. But her passing has now created that dash, which I'm sure most of you know about. That dash which goes between the date of your birth and the date of your passing. It's the same dash, of course, which one day will represent all of our lives. For Gladys, it was 35,821 days. 35,821 mornings like this, of waking up and staring at life directly in the face. And of course, we are so grateful for her gaze. Grateful that she lived and walked among us for as long as she did. And if we look across her span of human years, it's obvious she's going to be deeply missed by many people. And we might equate our lives with the ocean, with the waves, or the years rather, rolling by with the regularity of waves. And on that ocean we have death knock on doors, and we respond. And of course we think of sorrow when we consider death. But I would also ask you to consider this quote from Khalil Gibran, who said this. He said, "When you are feeling sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you will see that in truth you may be weeping for the thing which has been your delight." And that's certainly the case with this lady. So today we have an opportunity to add our individual remembrances of her into a collective shared pool and have a common experience. Each of you has many individual remembrances of this lady, and you bring them here with you today. You all saw her differently, but it was a view with much in common. Welsh poet and writer Dylan Thomas talked about the homeward heart, and I want to just touch on this for a moment. He said this. He says, while alive, one can never really reach home, but wherever friendly paths intersect, the whole world can look like home for a time. And I say that beating inside us all is a homeward heart. There are few feelings in the world to rival that of putting your hand on the doorknob of your home, knowing you're going to open a door and there are people in there who love you and whom you love. It's a very common and very blessed experience. And there's a charming description of this journey home that I'd like to share with you. Suzuki Roshi was a Zen Buddhist monk. He was based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and on one occasion he took a trip to Yosemite National Park. And he saw this lovely waterfall coming over a cliff. He said this. He said, it's all one river at the top of the cliff. And then it falls and breaks up into these little individual droplets. And then the water, of course, hits the bottom of the cliff and becomes one river again. We might think of our lives as the distance between the top and the bottom of that cliff. And while we're living, or like the droplets falling, we don't always feel as connected to each other as we should. We might at times feel maybe a little marginalized or anxious, maybe depressed. We don't feel that connection that we really need to strive to feel. But we know that the happiness of the drop is to die in the river, is to return. And we can say now with comfort that that's what Gladys has done. She has gone home. She has returned to her source, whatever you interpret that to be. She is back where she belongs. And we should take some confidence in that, knowing that she's regained her river. So this, of course, just is a reminder to us that we are all spiritually connected human beings. We come from the same universal family, and we're capable of feeling gratitude. And there are two words I'm going to give you today and encourage you to use as a takeaway. The first is gratitude. You should have a feeling of gratitude in your hearts, and I'm sure you do, that you shared life with Gladys. And the second word is memories, because that's what Gladys has become, a fond, internal, safely harbored memory. And memories can't be altered by time or circumstance. No one can change your memories. They're yours. So you need to protect them and bring them forward to help you through the years to come. And of course, we're forming a new memory here this morning. And that should take us back to that feeling of gratitude. And hopefully what we have to share with each other today has the ability to leave us feeling connected and landed together on a friendly shore this morning. So this is our little journey. Now I met the other day with John and Karen to plan this service. And we had a good time. We spent several hours together. And one of the things that I always do before I set about my task of writing a service is I ask the family, I ask John and Karen to give me some words and phrases that would describe this lady to me. I didn't have the privilege of meeting Gladys. So I'd like to share their words and phrases that they shared with me with you. I asked them to describe her character, personality. So the first note that I made is that Gladys was a kind and warm-hearted woman. She was honest, had principles, and a strong will. And while she was mostly mild-mannered, she was also independent and capable of being stubborn. She was described as being very social, good conversationalist. And I think it was Karen who said that she was ahead of herself in many ways. She had a good sense of perception, and we might call her intuitive. She lived as though understanding this circle of karma that we should all be well aware of, and how, of course, present deeds affect future outcomes. And she had a favorite expression: everything's under control. Some of you have heard that. I thought it was quite a charming description. She was termed the family switchboard. She would be the communicator, and was the one that if you needed to know something that was happening in the family anywhere, you phoned her. At times, she enjoyed being in charge, shall we say, and was not above being a little manipulative, if necessary. Some of you are smart. But people liked her. People liked her. She was a likable lady. And Gladys liked them back, and much enjoyed being the center of attention, which of course makes her a Scorpio, right? Karen would describe feeling that Gladys created the feeling of everyone being in a family, regardless of your connection to the family. Everyone was considered part of that core family. And at all times, she was a nurturing, loving, and supportive mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. We can say with confidence that Gladys faced the challenges that were put in her path with steel in her back and a certain elegant grit. Gladys was one of us. Now, she was born on a Saturday, October 27th, 1917, in Stoke-on-Trent, England. Her father was William Brown, her mother Cicely, we want to get it right, Cicely Malkin, and she would be the couple's firstborn, later to be joined by Ivy and Bill. She would start and finish her education, which was limited in those days, in Stoke-on-Trent. And then for a couple of years, she would join the legendary pottery and ceramics industry that, of course, is so deeply embedded in the Stoke area. And just as a little aside, historically, I thought I'd just have a quick look at this. Since the 17th century, this area of Staffordshire has been known for its industrial scale pottery manufacturing. Companies such as Royal Dalton and Wedgwood, and it was for Wedgwood that Gladys would go to work. And of course, the nearby coal mines provided the necessary energy for fueling the mighty kilns of Staffordshire. So she would find work painting gold leaf onto pieces of Wedgwood. Amazing. So in a small, modest way, she added her name to many who had come before her, working in a pretty time-honored profession. When war loomed, Gladys would serve her country, as many women did on the home front. She went to Birmingham and worked as a riveter. There were so many quiet heroes, sort of behind-the-scenes heroes, people like Gladys. But we did miss an event, so we need to back up a little. Before the war, she would meet a man named Jack. The couple would marry, and just for your information, during the conflict, Jack would serve in South Africa. And after marriage, the couple would be blessed with 2 children, John and Vicky. In 1949, the marriage would dissolve. Several years later, Gladys would meet another man named Norman Bebbington. We think at a dance where she might have been with her sister Ivy. The couple would fall in love and never fall out. They would marry December 8th, 1951, and theirs would be described as a good marriage. The family in time would expand to include Barry and Susan, and together they would move to Montreal in 1956. A new world was waiting. In 1975, after nearly 20 years in Montreal, there would be a trip across country to Vancouver, where they would eventually settle in Burnaby. And as a family, and I'm combining the two kind of portions of the family, as a family they enjoyed many things together. Some of which would be numerous camping trips, which would include fishing. There'd be the typical things Vancouver families of that era did, P&E every summer, of course, a visit to Stanley Park. And Gladys loved special occasions. She really enjoyed, especially Christmases and birthdays, and the regular family dinners where they would gather to enjoy her cooking. In particular, the one thing I noted was her mincemeat tarts. But on a more personal level, Gladys enjoyed reading, mostly novels, and she liked to watch some television. A true Englishman, of course, she would rarely miss Coronation Street, I'm told, and also liked The Voice. She also enjoyed the casino and was fond of challenging the one-armed bandit. And as the English would say, that she loved to flutter. That's how they would describe that. A long-time animal lover as well. And she did some traveling various times in her life. At one point, I think, or for a regular period of time, would visit Yuma in Arizona to escape our winters. Which really don't need escaping, do they? And there'd be some cruises. She would go to Alaska and to the Caribbean. Sadly, the family would lose Norman in 1989, and Gladys would eventually find her way to the West End, where she would, for a time, live at the Beach Towers. And then in June of this year, as I'm sure most of you know, she would need a little more help. So she would find a new home at Clarendon Court in Vancouver. The family wants to thank that facility. This is something we don't do enough in our society. We don't thank the people who look after our ill and our elderly. So we want to make sure we do that this morning. But of course, as is normally the case, settling in was a bit of a challenge for her, but one which was becoming easier to her all the time. And then came her passing, which in my humble opinion is a kind of blessed way that occurred. I think just a little bit over a week ago, I think 8 days ago or so, she could be found full of fire and brimstone. In fact, she attended a memorial of her friend, who was even more aged than she. And no doubt she may have gone home that evening with some mixed feelings and emotions, perhaps reflecting on her own long human journey. And then over the last weekend, needing a little more help, Gladys would be admitted to the Burnaby General Hospital. And this would prove to be the last stop of her human journey. And she would make her passage in what was described as a peaceful grave. And we should take some comfort in that. You know, a lady who was so independent for so long. And we should also take comfort in knowing that when she would breathe herself into the next world, she would not have felt alone, but would have felt held in the hands and the hearts of the people in this room, the people who loved her and cared for her. I just want to comment here. There's a wonderful Jesuit philosopher poet named John O'Donohue. I had the privilege of meeting him, and predictably we talked about living, dying, passages. And he said something I've never forgot that I'd like to share with you. He looked me in the eyes and he said, the greatest privilege we have as human beings is to help someone you love die. And even though it may have been done over a distance of time or in small fragments, everyone here helped this lady on her passage. Now, of course, none of us know when we will draw our last breath, and that is a good thing. But perhaps when we do, let's hope it's at the end of a long and pretty fulfilled life, and that we're active up until really hours before our passing, and that we're not alone when we do so. Gladys did not die alone. None of us are born alone, and none of us die alone. Now, a Harvard anthropologist once asked a primitive African bushman why he stood so long at the grave of his mother. And the bushman replied quietly, because she was our person whom we love. And I put it to you, that's why you're here this morning, because Gladys is your person whom you love. So now it's time to hear some voices other than mine. We have a rich lineup of some designated speakers. There will also be an open call opportunity for those of you who are not on the designated list. So if that's the case and the Spirit moves you, we'll ask you to come forward. But to start us off, I'm now going to ask Ian to come forward and share with us.
Morning, everyone. Heard a little thing here. John asked me to break the ice, I think is the word he used. Not a great public speaker, so I had to write this down. Unlike you, I don't remember. So thank you, Vicky, John, Barry, and Sue. For arranging this memorial so we could say goodbye to our dear friend Gladys. Jean Bates, my wife, and I have known Gladys for roughly a decade and a half. When my grandmother introduced her as a good friend, "Hello, ducks," she exclaimed. Witty, full of energy, Gladys, who could hold her own in a spirited conversation with her indomitable southern English accent, would fill our heads with all her adventures. Over time, we became good friends, inviting her out for trips to Steveston, for example, along with my mother Doreen, who was visiting from England for tasty fish and chips, or having her over to the house to share in a Christmas dinner, or simply stopping in to our West End apartment for a cup of tea. Gladys always welcomed us. She cared about people, and for example, would for years maintain contact with my mother and dad by phoning long distance to England once a month to say, "Hi ducks, how are you?" It was one of her endearments. Whenever she phoned, she'd always start off with, "Hi ducks." Gladys had suffered with her legs for many years, with what I'm sure would make lesser humans just give up. Not Gladys. She maintained her independent lifestyle right up until June of this year. On warmer days, she would walk with the aid of her four-wheel walker from her apartment on Comic Street to the corner of Robson, where happily she'd sit and talk to friends or passersby. Or she'd go to the seawall to enjoy the beauty of the surroundings. She made a point of being active, social, always ready for a change of pace. The last year was difficult for Gladys. Many trips to the hospital, which in one case, during May and early June, she needed to stay for 6 weeks, while they intravenously fed her antibiotics for an infection in her shoulder. Jean and I visited often, together, or Jean on her own, and just before I had to leave for England to see my aging mother, I went to see Gladys and she dreamed, "Hello ducks, these nurses are a funny bunch. Some are really good, but some of them shouldn't even be here." Once out of hospital, we believe Gladys realized that her independent living lifestyle was really not sustainable. As much as in her mind she clung on to the idea and loathed leaving her lovely apartment, she realized her mobility, was declining, and so with her children's help, she found a wonderful, modern residential care home, which she moved into in June. It took Gladys, as it would for any of us, a few months to adapt to the environment. In fact, she downright hated it. Dux, this place is horrible. So many bloody rules. Can't do this, can't do that. But once settled, Gladys made friends, adapted, and continued to enjoy the visits, support, and camaraderie of family and new friends. Gladys and her 4 wonderful children invited us to her 98th birthday, only last October. And she was chipper, enjoying the entire evening. I asked how she felt, and she said, "Hello, Dux, come on in and have a drink." We will miss you, Gladys, for a life well lived.
Thank you, Ian. Now, before we hear the rest of our designated speakers, we do have that open call opportunity. So is there anyone who might like to come forward and tell a story or share a memory? Okay. We have our grandson responding.
I too have a terrible memory, so I had to write mine down as well. Hello, family and friends. My name is Johnny, yet another of Gladys' dearest grandchildren. I always remember Nanny for her wise advice, her childlike spirit, and her unspoken influence and inspiration she had for others. She was beautiful and lived a life in tune with the nature of things. She had boundless energy and endless kindness for others, and a way of bringing everyone a sense of humility and greatness. Gladys would have nothing to do with negative thinking. She was always curious, and through her passion for life, and despite any trauma, always found a way to be happy. Perhaps not all the time, but it was always with her. I still find it amazing that she was in her mid-90s living in a condo in downtown Vancouver, cooking for herself, making new friends, buying people Tim Horton lunches and hotel restaurant senior discount dinners. She would never take no for an answer either, if you tried to pay for it. Nanny never forgot one of my birthdays, and I don't think she missed many of any of her family's birthdays. I think it was her way of celebrating the life of those dear to her, as we should be celebrating her life here today. Anyone who knew Gladys would know that she truly and deeply cared for anyone that would give her their time. She was a constant reminder that each and every moment in our lives is precious, no matter what, our age or circumstances. Gladys was a reminder of how important our family and friends are in our daily lives, and exercise. It blew me away that she walked everywhere she went at her ripe old age, and I believe she was right when she said that walking was the secret to the long, joyful life she lived. That and maybe afternoon tea. She was a sucker for jujubes, pizza, and most of all, our company. She loved to gamble, a reminder that life is about taking risks and having fun along the way. I care deeply for Nanny, and I'll never forget her genuine smile, her wise words, and her kind, gentle, and beautiful soul. She loved her family, and from what I've collected from you all, she was a wonderful wife and mother, determined, hardworking, wise, loving, and devoted. She would never want any of us to grieve over her passing, and I want to remind everyone that this is a celebration of her life, just as much as a grieving of her death. And I want to thank you all for being here today, because I know that your time meant the world to this truly special woman.
Thank you, John. You have another? Please, come on.
I'm terrible at public speaking, and but for Gladys, I could gladly do it. And hope you don't mind if I read from my notes. My name is Jean Davidson. I am a friend of Gladys. Even though I am 32 years younger, I enjoyed her company tremendously. She taught me a lot about life. I admire and love her like a mother. I remember the twinkle in her eyes, her girlish laughter, and a ready smile for almost everyone she came across. I remember her for a quirky English accent, which when I first met her, it took me a while to figure out what she was saying. I remember her love for children, her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, in which she also received back from them totally. They meant everything in the world to her. I remember her generosity with the time, such as volunteering in community centers, also caring enough to visit friends and others in need in their homes. One of those friends was my husband's grandmother, Hilda. I remember the trips she and Hilda made to Reno. I remember she was very astute, always wary of those scams that were going around, and she had never fallen prey to them, although many people had. I remember she would make long-distance calls once every month to all her relatives and friends, including my husband's mom and dad in England. She kept in constant touch with the people she knew. I remember her willingness to attend functions and celebrations, even in the latter years where it became difficult to do. Nonetheless, she enjoyed them to boot. She lived in Carrollton Court, an assisted living home, for only 5 months. But already, she has made many residents and staffs were touched when they heard of her passing. She tried to integrate with the people by taking every opportunity to attend the home celebrations, which it had a few, even for a few months she was there, such as Canada's Day celebration, Disney celebration, choirs by the student, Old English sing-along, which she loved. I remember she loved to play bingo, the Queen in England. I remember her legs usually swollen and painful. Despite that, she always looked on the bright side, and when her leg swelling went really down once, she was so pleased and said, "I have ballerina legs now." I thought that was rather cute. I remember her sense of humor and witty reply. Example, one time a taxi driver, realizing her age, remarked, "You look so young." She replied, "You haven't seen me walk yet." Or someone asked her whether she had a calculator or computer. She pointed to her brain and said, "It's here." I remember her fortitude to whatever life threw at her for over 98 years. And she accepted each trial and tribulation with grace and not to let it get her down. Gladys was caring, kind, generous, charming, astute, a fantastic mother, loyal, friendly, and witty to the very end. She lived life to the fullest within her capabilities, and an exemplary life that was. Thank you, Gladys, for leaving me with such beautiful memories. Thank you for sharing your time with me and inspiring me. I miss you so very, very much. Also, thank you, John, Vicki, Barry, and Sue, for your appreciation of Ian's and my friendship with them. God bless.
Hi, I'm Jim. Linda and I are blessed to be good friends with Gladys and Norm during the time here in Vancouver. Back in Montreal when I was 10 years old, Norm was my first soccer coach. So So that started a lifelong, wonderful time with the family and with Gladys and Norm. I think I grew up in the Bebbington basement and spent probably thousands of hours there. Wonderful times, and Gladys certainly helped me grow up. She, as people have said, she was so caring. That was her style. She cared and worried about everyone. She certainly cared about our family, always asking about how everyone was doing. When my daughter and son, Marissa and Kevin, were very young, she always had a little bit set aside for them. Now, my granddaughter Charlie always has little gifts for Gladys. And she obviously cared and loved and worried about every single one of her extended family. That was her joy doing that. And as people have mentioned, she also cared about friends and volunteered for senior citizens to look after them. But when you get to be 98 years old, it's hard to find older people to look after. So her work was getting done there. And she was so proud and happy of her whole family and so content with how everyone had worked out. She was in a very good state. So I think her work was done. It was time to move on. And so now she's back together with Norman, and what a beautiful picture that is.
Hi, my name is Lorna Jordan, and I got to know Gladys many years ago in the West End. We have a program there for seniors, which is called Be Well. And Gladys was a very faithful attendee. So we had a lot of laughs with her, and she was always in good spirits and always had a smile on her face. And we'd laugh at her because she loved music, as you probably all know. And we had somebody in for our entertainment at Be Well, and she had her walker. She'd be out there with her walker, and she'd be swinging around and really enjoying the music. So we all loved her very much, and we all definitely missed her. My friend Joyce and I were all from the West End, and we phoned her on her birthday, and we thought, we've got to go and see Gladys at her new home. Well, we didn't do it soon enough. But anyway, I'm sure she knows that our hearts were with her. So I came across a poem that I'd like to write. I thought it would be apropos for Gladys and her family. So this is like Gladys talking to you. And it's called My First Christmas in Heaven. I see the countless Christmas trees around the world below, with tiny lights like heaven stars reflecting on the snow. The sight is so spectacular, please wipe away the tears, for I am spending Christmas with Jesus this year. I hear the many Christmas songs that people hold so dear, but the sound of music can't compare with the Christmas choir up here. I have no wants to tell you, joy was always there, for it is beyond description to hear the angels sing. I know how much you miss me. I see the pain inside your heart, but I am not so far away with you. We really aren't very far apart. So be happy for me, dear ones. You know I hold you dear. You be glad I'm spending Christmas with Jesus this year. I sent you a special gift from my heavenly home above. I sent you each a memory of my undying love. After all, love is a gift more precious than pure gold. It was always most important in the stories that Jesus told. Please love and keep such others. Please love and keep each other as my Father said to do, for I can't count the blessings of love He has for each of you. So have a Merry Christmas. Remember, I'm spending Christmas with Jesus this year. Thank you. Rest in peace, Gladys. We miss you.
I'm now going to call on Susan, Dr. Susan, to come and share with us.
This is what happens when you're the youngest. You get to go first. I basically have 3 simple words that I think best describe my mom. She lived, she laughed, and she loved. Lived, she certainly lived her life her way. She was very independent when making life decisions. If any of us would suggest something outside of her opinion, her response was usually a big fat no. Knowing that, we always had to give her a few days, sometimes a few weeks, to give her time to reconsider her adamant no's, and she usually came around. She loved Vancouver. She never considered moving next to Frank or myself. We asked her so many times. But she loved living in West Van. She had good friends. And she said the Poconos would be way too boring for her. On many of my visits, we went down to the front where she loved to go the most. The performers that performed on the front knew her by her first name. She was just content near this past couple of months to sit on her bench outside of her apartment with her wonderful friend Laura. And she just liked to visit and talk to friends or strangers. It didn't matter to Mom. Laughed. She certainly laughed. When sharing her stories on her travels to Arizona with my dad, dune bugging, nearly getting arrested in the deserts because she was on military land. She loved helping Dad be the reigning Miss Yuma, singing English songs, entertaining those Yankees. Most importantly, she could laugh at herself. And I won't go into the story, but we had a lunch with Stephanie, Joanne, and Donna, and it was quite the laugh. Loved. Mom loved her husband. She loved her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren. Somehow she never forgot our anniversary, a birthday, something that I need to work on now. All those here today, friends, family, those that are far away and that could not make it here today, were blessed with her love too. She often said her friends, without her friends, she would never have been able to stay by herself as long as she did. So I thank all of her friends here today for that. In closing, this celebration of her new journey begins. She always put others first. Giving is far better than receiving. And lastly, forgiveness. I don't think my mom ever held a grudge. My strong faith in God helps me know she is again living, laughing, and loving, and young again.
Again, thank you so much. And now we're going to call on Vicki.
I have my Mickey Mouse picture just so I can get through this. Right now, my mom is smiling ear to ear, seeing you all here. I know that. This is my note note to Mom. There is nothing I can say that I have not already told you in person. I know that you know how I feel about you. You know, I always loved spending time with you. Whenever I would visit, I always hated the leaving part. I would always give you a big hug, and when I walked out the door, I would shout back, "Love you lots," to which you would always reply, "Love you more." You would then stand by the window and wave until I was out of sight. I always left, hoping there would be a next time. This visit didn't go like the rest. So today, I am sad. Sad because I won't hear you shuffle around your apartment anymore. I won't get to hear what excitement you got up to between our visits. I won't get to laugh with you when you're doing something silly, like hugging Mickey Mouse. Sometimes we laughed till we cried. I won't be able to help you do the things that you could not do, even though you tried them anyway. I will miss watching The Voice and singing Blake Shelton songs with you. He was your favorite. And I already miss calling you every night to see how you're doing. But I'm also happy. I'm happy that you got to live the life you wanted right up to the end, including attending a service to say goodbye to your longtime friend, Peggy, at 104 years of age. Happy that your mind stayed bright and that you never let your failing legs tie you down or dampen your go-do-it attitude. By the way, Mom, I did go down to see your new suite with the patio in number 104. It's lovely, bright, and it looks into the garden where you spent a great deal of your time near the end. And so from now on, when I think of you, I will picture you there, dancing, singing, laughing, and free of pain. And when I leave and you look back, you will hear me say, "Love you lots," and I will hear you say, "Love you more," and I see you waving. I will not cry forever, but I will miss you forever.
Good for you, Vicki. Good. And now, going to hear from Barry.
Thanks for that.
I've been carrying around this green marker here, and it's from a dear friend of mine that had passed away several years ago, and it's going to help me get through this. What it says on here is, "Suck it up and get it done." Hi everyone, my name is Barry. I'm Gladys's favorite kid. Well, not really. When I would ask her if I was her favorite, she would say, "I love you kids all the same." I say kids as I often reminded Mom that all of her kids were seniors. Her reply was always the same, "Well, you'll always be my kids." Along the way, I learned some funny expressions from her. She would fondly say, "Hello, duck," or "You're stupider than," and I'll say this very slowly, "a blue-arsed fly." I always wondered how she knew how smart or stupid a blue-arsed fly was. When I talked to her about why she came to Canada, her reply was, "To give you kids a better life." Well, Mom, you already know. Mission accomplished. She was unwavering in sacrificing for her family and would do anything for us. She was also determined to live independently and not to bother any of us. She was also determined, oh, I said that. Well, she was smarter than a blue-arsed fly. And by choosing
to live independently, we kids were always gathering around her. While family was all important to her, it never stopped her from befriending anyone regardless of their status in life. She proudly introduced me to homeless friends or corporate executives. It was never about what you were, but always who you were. She was an unbelievable judge of character. She lived life by walking, laughing, talking, listening, singing, dancing, and joining in. Heaven's going to be a bit more organized now.
Great, well, thank you, Barry. And now to close things off, I'm going to call on John.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Before I say my words to my mother, I have some words from some dear friends and some other family members I mentioned overseas. So I'll start with Tony and Ann from Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent. So Tony and Ann has written, Gladys, to our Aunt Gladys, we, Ann and I miss you. We, Ann and I, will miss the phone chats, the sound of your voice. But for you to lose your pain and be with angels is good. You will always be loved and missed. You touch the hearts of many. So bye-bye, love, and God bless. Tony and Ann from England. From her cousins also, David and Karen from Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent. When I first met Dave, he wanted me to meet two people from his family, his cousin Gladys and his auntie Gladys, who was coming over from Canada to look after his mother Ivy, who was Gladys' sister. And this kind, funny, loving person came into mine and my family's lives. And that was 39 years ago. What an honor to be part of her life. We have nothing but admiration for her attitude and kindness to us. And everyone she meets, I know she would not want us to be sad and shed the tears that we have shed, because she embraced life to the full. But we have loved her dearly, and she has left a big hole in our lives. So the tears are for our loss. Gladys, you are a legend in Stoke, because we're always talking about you. We will love you forever, Dave and Karen, and all our children. I have another one from her Irish friends, Nessa and Roger. The world can be a wonderful place when seen through the eyes of a child. This was the gift bestowed on Gladys. Even though her life spanned 2 great wars and the deprivation of the Depression, she clung to that indomitable North Country spirit to smile through adversity and have a go. We often reveled in our good fortune to have moved into a neighborhood where there were 2 60-year-old playmates for our boys. A resident knock on their door, followed by a plaintive, "Can Auntie Gladys come out to play?" still rings in our memories. Many children came to know and love her as Auntie Gladys. Perhaps these challenging years in Stoke and the potteries inspired Gladys to reach out to help others. At the Pacific National Exhibition each year, it was poignantly ironic to see a 60-year-old in a wheelchair being pushed by a 70-year-old who shepherded them around and called them all Duck. She proudly took them on the annual tour of the prize showroom. She never aspired to win it because she saw her life as replete with her family around her. Today, those years of care and concern for others and their example to us are in the marks and medals won in a life well spent. Good on you, Duck. Love always, Nessa and Roger, Ryan and Evan. I want to pay tribute to my mother, and it will not not be easy for me to sum up a life of 98 years in just a couple of minutes. However, I will do my best. In a nutshell, I would have to describe my mother as being a very social, friendly soul who enjoyed being with people, and she had the unique gift of being able to just simply meet a stranger and strike up a conversation, and not only could she do this, quite often the person might eventually... Mother was very proud of her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren. She sometimes would express to her friends that she felt that she was a very lucky lady to have such a nice family. Mother had her difficult moments in life, both personal and health challenges, but her determination and sense of well-being always prevailed, and her longevity is proof of this. She could be stubborn at times. She was very independent, but these qualities helped her to do many of the things she had accomplished in her long life. An example of her courage and her inner strength can be found when at the rather young age of 39 years, she followed her husband and emigrated from England to Canada, along with her four small children, leaving her own mother behind, whom she loved so dearly, to strike up a new life for herself and her children. Because of our mother's courage, we children have enjoyed success in our own individual lives. Fast forward to 65 years of age, and we find Mother busy volunteering at various care homes in the city, where her specialty was, quote, adopting elderly women, and visiting and befriending them, and eventually they became an important part of Mother's life. She continued this, in fact, right up to the end of her own life. Last Friday, she went by her usual mode of transportation, handy dart, to a celebration of life for one of her friends, Peggy, who had passed away a few months back at the ripe old age of 104. True to her nature, even though her own passing was just a couple of days away, Mother was continuing her generosity of nature and honoring an old friend. As an aside, when Peggy was living in the West End of Vancouver, she would invite Mother along with other friends to watch the fireworks at English Bay. Because Peggy's apartment looked directly out towards the fireworks float, I was invited one year, and after the fireworks was over, Mother set out for home with me in tow. Try to imagine Denman Street filled with 300,000 people, and Mother stepping out from the sidewalk with her walker to cross the street, saying, "Seeing you coming through, seeing you coming through," and me hanging on to her coattails for dear life. Somehow she parted the waves of people and crossed the street safely, the walker acting like a battering ram dividing up the large crowd. She was an amazing woman. She enjoyed life, her friends and her family, and she touched many other people during her long life. Her ability to stay in contact with so many people, both here in Vancouver and also overseas with her English family, was simply amazing. She was the switchboard of the family. If you want to know what was happening, you just had to phone Mother. The photo here on the table is a very good image of our mother. It depicts a real queen bee. And I am so proud to be able to pay my respects to a wonderful mother who has raised 4 children, and each one of us in turn owes our individual success to this loving, caring, warm-hearted woman who has devoted a large portion of her life to making other people's lives more meaningful. She was a great mother, and I will miss her terribly. But I know that she is at peace and has rejoined her husband Norman and her own mother Cicely and other departed members of the Brown family. Mother, know that we will all miss you, family and friends alike, but you are loved deeply and will forever be in our hearts. In your copy of the order of service, there are a few words that Mother left for us. I will take a moment to read these words out loud. My children, do not cry, but look above. Picture a carnation. I am at rest and spirit free. When you see a shining star on high, you do not have to wonder why. Picture me sailing to a distant shore. Should you think I am no more, I will be with you every day. Whisper to me at night when you pray. Rainbows, sunbeams should remind you I am here. Till we meet again. God bless you, Mother, and may your spirit continue to soar.
Well, thank you to John and all the speakers. That was lovely, heartfelt messages. And now we have a unique opportunity. We have the ability to invite Gladys to join us in pictures and in music. We have a slide presentation that's been put together, and let's make ourselves comfortable, sit back, and enjoy.
Tell me I may always dance the anniversary waltz with you. Tell me this is real romance, an anniversary dream come true. Let this be the anthem to our future years, to millions of smiles and a few little tears. May I always listen to the anniversary waltz with you. Tell me again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Well, that was excellent. And our thanks go to, I think it's David, who put that together for us. Lovely. Well, we've had a lot of words. We've had pictures. We've had music. What I'd like to suggest we do now is take a moment of silence and let what we've heard, seen, and listened to sink into our minds and hearts. It's a lot this morning for us to absorb and to put into a context. So let's share some silent time together. Silence is a very powerful thing to do in a group. So I encourage you to make your body comfortable so your mind can be, and enter into your own place of prayer, meditation, or just shared silence. We're going to sit quietly for the next few moments following this recitation from Ecclesiastes. To everything there is a season, and a time and purpose under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time of peace.
shepherd will tend his sheep. The valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be flowers over white cliffs of Dover tomorrow. Just you wait and see.
Brilliance did she write or say? She bore the battle of living and the fray. Little wealth or fame did she leave behind. She was merely honorable, brave, and kind. I want to thank you all for being here again this morning. This experience would not have been the same if all of you had not gathered in her name. But her memorial is not in the words that we've shared or the pictures or the music. If you look around you, her memorial is in the faces of the people who shared this experience with you. And that's the reason we've come together, is to celebrate that in our group setting. And it takes us back once again to that wonderful nature of memories. Memories can be collective and shared, such as they have this morning, but they can also be private. But memories help us better understand that death need not be looked upon as a journey into the unknown, but a return home. And I have a couple of dedications I'd like to share with you in closing our service now. This first one is a poem that I selected that I'd like to read on her behalf, on Gladys' behalf. It was written by an American poet called Merrick Malloy, and he was a grandfather, and he wrote this poem and dedicated it to his grandchildren who were coming after him. So we're going to do just that, but of course we're going to include the great-grandchildren. So I'm going to go through this list, and I hope I haven't missed anyone. So this will be dedicated from whatever you called, whether it was grandma or nanny, whatever you called her, Nana. And the grandchildren are Joanne, Stephanie, Michael, Johnny, Mark, Renee, and Kim. Great-grandchildren, Isabel, Ethan, Ryan, Riley, Bryn, Taylor, Maven, Greer, Scarlett, Brock, Chase, and Nicholas. I hope I haven't missed anyone. And I'd like to see the two small ones we have here today. Could you put your hands up for us? Oh, there we are. The other ones were recovering from being underneath the seat. Can you give us a wave and let's hear your names? Oh, you're Isabel, okay. Okay, great. All right. I'm really glad you're here today. So this is the poem. And I want to dedicate it, of course, from her to them. It's entitled, When I Die. When I die, give what is left of me away. And if you need to cry, then cry for the person walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. Look for me in people that I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live through your eyes, your mind, and your acts of kindness. I want to leave you with something that is better than sounds or words. So you can love me most by letting your hands touch others and letting go of people who need to be free. Love does not die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. And this second one is a letter I've taken the liberty of adapting. So I need you to use your imaginations just a little bit here. And imagine that Gladys wrote this letter to me this morning and asked me to read it to you again this morning. The letter's entitled, No Sad Tears for Me, Please. I hope by now some of the initial shock of my departure has begun to wear away,
and a carpet of pleasant memories has started to unroll. I ask only one thing: no sad tears for me, please. Rather recall me with a fond smile as a daughter, sister, aunt, wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and friend, who shared your laughter, tears, and dreams throughout these so many years. Save your sadness and sorrow for others who may not have discovered the delicious pleasures of this world that I did. I lived over 98 years, but it could never have been enough. I laughed a lot, I cried a little. I got to see a few thousand sunsets. Life was good. I got to raise my wonderful family, and I stayed close to my heart all my life. I worked hard, and I kept my head up. I loved, and I was loved in return. I held my husband and my 4 children, my 7 grandchildren, and my 12 great-grandchildren in my arms, and what a blessing each have been to me. So no sad tears for me, please. The memories of my years turned over slowly, like the pages from a book. There were victories which gave my life zest. There were defeats which made me stronger. So remember our happy times together, the Christmases, the Thanksgivings, the birthdays, and just the many, many times we were together as family and friends. So no sad tears for me, please, Gladys. Now, no person ever really dies, while there are those on earth that still love that person. And all those who have loved or who have been loved earn a small piece of immortality. And today we've taken part in Gladys's journey by sharing with each other who she was, how she lived, and most importantly, how she loved. And Gladys, we say to you, you're here with us this morning. And we want to thank you for the courage and compassion that you had over nearly a century. How you touched so many people in a magnificent way that was private to their own hearts. This has been our recognition of you and the meaning that your life gave to our world. And everyone here today should feel a part of Gladys's family. You are her friends, you are her loved ones, and this is her village, built on the rock of her memory. And what you might think now is the end of her human journey can become a bit of a new beginning for you all. A beginning where you continue your conversation with Gladys, the way it should be, with memories and reminiscences built on love. So keep those memories alive. They're little pieces of Gladys that you get to now carry around with you. And that perhaps is the finest definition of immortality. The little pieces of each other that we carry around in our minds, hearts, and souls to pass along to others, thus creating a living chain, a chain which can last forever. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind a gray window or a ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. And when the canvas frays in the basis of your thoughts, or a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across your waters a path of yellow moonlight to guide you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours, and may the protection of your ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you into an invisible cloak to mind your life.